We're going to start this off by addressing the communication error that occurred during this incident. And as a parent, I want you to know that I certainly understand the frustration and the concern that our community felt when those conflicting messages went out. So here's what we know, and we're going to give you a timeline. At 5:27 a.m., a shelter-in-place message was sent to contacts to those who have signed up for the Warren Central Texas within the designated radius. At 6:30 a.m., a follow-up message lifted the shelter-in-place, replacing it with an avoid the area due to heavy police presence. At 6:59 a.m., AISD police leadership was briefed to ensure they were aware of the situation and the status of the suspect, who remained outstanding. At 8:31 a.m., a follow-up message was again shared advising contacts to avoid the area due to that heavy police presence. At 8:57 a.m., the final message was sent advising contacts to resume normal activities due to the suspect being in custody. Again, we recognize the seriousness of this mistake, and we are reviewing this breakdown to ensure it does not happen again. Communication in moments like this are critical. But I can say this, we work every day and we work very well with AISD, and I am very happy with that relationship. We share a lot of goals together, and we work very closely together, and that's going to continue, and it's only going to improve as we move forward. APD is also working with the Austin Emergency Management to collaborate with partner agencies even outside of AISD, such as other area school districts, and discuss opportunities for improvement, including conducting tabletop exercises to ensure that all personnel are trained and understand their roles during a critical incident. It is important to standardize these things to ensure that everyone knows what their roles and their responsibilities are. Listen, we are an agency that is a learning culture, and as we understand that there is room for improvement, we will continue to grow and continue to make those improvements as we move along. And I will now turn it over to Chief Sneed.
Thank you, Chief Davis. Good afternoon. We agree that things could have been done differently. We're committed to tightening up our protocols and enforcing our systems to make sure that this does not happen again. We're incredibly proud of our campus principals, their staff, and our on-the-ground AISD police officers who work to keep these students safe during the absence of clear direction. AISD and the City of Austin will be working together to improve communications and plans for how any community incidents can impact our school operations and our campus communities. Our current protocols focus on when students are present at campus, and we've identified these transition periods as gaps in our emergency planning. We'll now plan for various types of incidents to occur during the day, such as early morning arrivals, afternoon dismissals, and lunch time for students, especially high school. We will introduce modified protocols to secure students at the campus and to tell our families to stay home if they haven't already left. During the incident, we did have an increased presence at the campus to support our families during arrival. Prior to this incident, on September 4th, I had sent out an email to all of our local, state, and federal first responders requesting that we meet on October 20th to discuss incidents like this and what kind of resources and how we can coordinate those resources amongst us. That included a communication piece. This was all part of House Bill 33, which is the Uvalde Strong bill. So we will continue, that's already in the plannings. It just stepped up our timeline with this incident. So I'll turn this back over to Chief Davis.
Thank you. Oh, you're fine. Okay, now we're going to walk through the events that led to this officer-involved shooting. On Wednesday, September 10th at 3:30 a.m., APD officers were conducting a curfew check in Zilker Park. Officers located a stolen vehicle in the 700 block of AZ Morton Road, which is inside Zilker Park. While the vehicle was being prepared for a tow, two suspects approached from the wood line, claiming the vehicle belonged to them. At 4:10 a.m., Officer Adam Reinhardt, a 6-year veteran with our department, made contact with these individuals as they moved toward him from that wooded area. Officer Reinhardt identified himself and gave multiple commands and advised the subjects they were detained and not free to go. The male subject, later identified as Brandon Thompson, 30 years old, ignored those commands. Thompson fired his weapon, striking the female subject in the back of the head and Officer Reinhardt in the abdomen. Officer Reinhardt returned fire, not striking Mr. Thompson, who then fled through the wooded area. Backup officers arrived minutes later and transported Officer Reinhardt to a local hospital and initiated a large-scale search for the suspect. The female victim, Kay Smith, was just 30 years old. She was transported to the hospital and later pronounced brain dead. A multi-agency response, including SWAT, K9, Air 1, and AISD police, assisted in the search. Thompson was later located after breaking into a home on Homedale Drive, where the homeowner fired on him, striking him in the arm and the leg. He was transported to the hospital and remains in stable condition. At this point, his charges include attempted capital murder on a police officer, burglary of a residence, and additional charges are pending. No other individuals, including the tow truck driver and the residents of the home, were injured. The handgun used by Thompson has been recovered. I'm now going to show you the police radio traffic and the body-worn camera of Officer Reinhardt.
Maybe it was DR 408, 2 people coming out, I think, the vehicle belongs to them.
We're backing up.
Maybe 11 GD here.
Yeah, stand by, you can do the open now. Hey, shot fire, I have 2 down, I'm hit. I'm gonna be out next to you.
All units, start for David 11.
I'm bleeding. Still up with me hit in the side.
Clear. Supervisor clear.
We got 1 innocent victim down, shot by the suspect a white male, green shirt. I don't know if he made it back to the woods or if he went down or not.
Yeah, 4.
It was incredibly hard to watch. And so you can see from that, as they're exiting the wood line, he appears to be about 5 feet behind her. At that point, our officer does not have his weapon pulled. When he gives that second command to show me your hands, he pulls the gun, hitting Kay in the back of the head. He then continues to fire where he strikes the officer in the abdomen. And so at that point, the officer was able to get his gun off and fire several shots. And again, during this incident, Kay Smith, 30 years old, was critically injured and declared brain dead. Our hearts are with her family, and we extend our deepest condolences as they grieve for their daughter. This is a senseless act of violence that cut short a young life far too soon, and violent crime of this nature is devastating and unnecessary and is felt by our entire community. I also want to commend Officer Reinhardt, who showed remarkable courage and bravery in the face of danger. As you saw, he was alone at the time, making commands to 2 individuals, and then was shot in the line of duty. Despite being seriously injured, he remained calm, professional, and clear in his communication. He immediately broadcast critical information about the suspect, the scene, and the threat to other officers. His actions under extreme pressure allowed other officers to respond quickly and safely. Even after being struck, he held the scene until backup arrived and ensured the safety of the community around him. We are grateful that he is released from the hospital. I'm glad to say recovering at home with his wife. His professionalism and courage exemplifies what it means to serve the Austin community. And I'm incredibly proud of him, and I'm incredibly proud to say that he's a member of our Austin Police Department. He reflects the very best of us in law enforcement. We ask the community to continue keeping Officer Reinhardt in their thoughts as he recovers. In addition to Officer Reinhardt, I want to recognize the outstanding work of our specialized units during this case, our K9 officers, SWAT team, the Air 1 unit, and his fellow officers who transported him to the hospital. I also want to thank Dell Medical Center for their exceptional work on our officer. This was a strong coordinated response and demonstrates the dedication and professionalism of your Austin Police Department and the department as a whole. Together, these men and women exemplified our mission to protect and to serve this community with courage and with skill. Again, that's very hard to watch, and believe me, as a police chief, to hear that one of your officers has been shot is one of the most terrifying things you can imagine. So again, how this turned out and the fact that our officer has been released from the hospital to me, is a win. These officers did a fantastic job, and I'm very proud of all of them. I will now open it up for some questions.
Start with Brianna, then go to Meredith.
First of all, thank you guys so much for doing this briefing so shortly after this happened. I did want to get back to the communication apparent breakdown between the city and police department advising school not to go in session and the district still making that decision. Can you explain, I know you're talking about wanting to fix this in the future, but can you explain how that happened in this case?
Is that for me or for Chief Sneed?
Either one.
Do you wanna start?
I'll take it, yes. So, great question, first of all. What many of you may not realize, we run over 600 buses a day. When you're talking about elementary school buses leave the terminal at 5 a.m. There are kids already on the bus, already en route to schools at this particular point in time. So the focus was obviously securing the campus as kids were arriving at the campus. We don't want to get into focusing so much on the past on this piece, because we understand that the communication piece was a failure, and we're just working on, as we mentioned earlier, improving our communication as it moves forward.
Go to Meredith and then Austin over here.
Just to follow up on Toto, is there necessarily someone who's at fault? Did someone push the button incorrectly? You know,
You're talking about for the changing it from the shelter in place to the avoid the area?
correct.
Listen, as we move forward, and again, we are a culture of learning. I am not going to talk about two frontline supervisors that may have done, that we are about moving forward, and we are about how do we ensure this does not happen again. And so that is it. And as we move forward, and we're talking and working more closely, even more closely with AISD and our other partners about this as we move forward, doing tabletop exercises, talking about standardized processes and what is your role and responsibility in this as we move forward, all of us will get better with this. You talk about an incident that had started out as an officer-involved shooting. And then to evolve into what it did is a very rare circumstance. It is a very rare circumstance. And so to me, as we look forward, I'm excited to move into those tabletop exercises to talk about how what everyone's roles and responsibilities are. I think that there's absolutely room for improvement, as has been shown, but we are both committed to that. The organization, AISD, the Austin Police Department, we are all committed to that and making that happen.
And you go to
For
Austin.
Chief Sneed.
Yep.
Hey Chief, we reported a story this morning about a phone conversation you had with Chief of Staff Henderson, and an email a city attorney sent you recommending to close the schools around 7 a.m. What conversations were you having directly with AP officials before those 7 a.m. communications?
There wasn't any communication before that 7 a.m. conversation. So we hadn't had any conversations. So the focus at that particular point in time is where are we in the transition period? As I mentioned earlier, our protocols focus on students already on campus. And I've been here for over 14 years. We have these incidents every day where we go into some level of standard response protocols, or SRPs, right? Our SRPs were not designed for arrivals, dismissals, or lunchtime. That is the area that we're focused on tightening up, along with working with our partners in our communication piece. So that's where we are.
Let's go to Jamal and then Melanie.
This is for either Chief Davis or Chief Sneed. Could it also just be that the situation was just so rapidly developing, like you mentioned, that maybe the communication breakdown just existed because of how dynamic the situation was? Is that something that maybe you can look back on and try to, evaluate?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely fair to say, but at the end of the day, it's still about how do you learn from those mistakes and get better. And that's where we are always moving toward that continuous improvement.
Thank you, Chief. Melody from Clean Division 62. The suspect and the woman were related? Like they were a couple, or?
I believe they were boyfriend-girlfriend.
Go to Zool and Meredith.
I have a question. Has the suspect given a reason why he shot her in the head? And also, I saw a dog in the video. Did anything happen to that dog?
We have not been able to locate the dog. We are looking for him. But as far as a motive, no, none has been given.
And Meredith and Brianna.
Our records show that this officer has been involved in multiple officer-involved shootings. Can you talk to me about how an officer goes back out after this, after multiple times?
right, and do it so well. I mean, you saw the video. What an excellent job he did. I thought, looking at that initially, I thought he must have had some serious, military training or something, but he did a fantastic job. I think it is it is about him, it's about the individual, and speaks to his strength and his character, and able to come back from that. And hopefully it's about taking advantage of resources that we have. I know he has a very strong family. His wife was by his side immediately. He has very strong ties with his family, and that is always important to do. But to go through a few officer-involved shootings is a big deal. And to have an officer that comes back and regularly and continues to do the job and to do the job well, I think it speaks to his character.
Do we know how the suspect got the gun, and if he still had it by the time he was near Barton Hills Elementary?
The gun has been recovered. So we have the gun. The gun has been recovered.
Do we know if he had it when he was near students?
We know he had it when he broke into the home.
Okay.
So we do know that.
Let's go. Do you still have a question, Leah?
Was both the officer and the woman transferred to the hospital at the same time, or was the woman transported later?
The Kay was struck in the back of the head. The officers arrived. The officer was conscious. They drove him to the hospital immediately, while 2 other officers stayed with Kay. And then EMS arrived and transported her to Del City.
You mentioned other charges are pending. Does that include a charge with shooting and killing Kay?
That's correct.
Let's go to Jamal.
Chief, I believe this is the 5th officer-involved shooting this year, at least involving a UP officer here in Austin. I guess not the oftenest, but that seems like a lot, just to put it bluntly. Could you, is that something that you're familiar with?
I can tell you as a police chief, yes, it is a lot. But it's also that every single one of those cases, someone brought a gun, and they pointed a gun at an officer, or they threatened an officer with a gun, and you are not going to come to a point or an interaction with a police officer and point a gun. And it is unfortunate, and certainly as we teach de-escalation and we teach different tactics for that, for an officer to defend themselves, to defend the life of others, that's what their role is. And so when I'm looking at these shootings, every one of them has been with a case where a gun has been involved with the suspect.
We're going back to Austin.
So I guess going forward, if there's an incident that might involve both departments, something going on near a school where you're both involved, ideally, what would the communication and the processing of the alert system look like? Is it pressing a button or making immediate phone calls? What's that process?
Well, I think it's quite clear that the current process did not work, that there was a breakdown there. And so as we move forward, how are we evolving from that? And again, getting better, getting to a point where we all feel very comfortable and very aware of what is occurring. And again, what is your role in this? That's where we're moving to.
Go to Austin and then wrap it up with Meredith.
At this point, do investigators think Thompson intended to shoot Smith? Was it accidental? He was firing at officers?
I don't know that they're comfortable saying that yet. So let's just, at this point, we're going to let that investigation play out.
Last question for Meredith.
The suspect had a criminal history, and this seems to be the case often. Talk to me about what may seem to be like a revolving door with the justice system here in Austin and what needs to change.
Yeah, I can tell you, it is quite frustrating, certainly from our officers' perspective when, you've heard this tale of justice fatigue, right? There's this justice fatigue where officers are continually making arrests of subjects, whether it's for criminal trespass, whether it's for the more serious things, and then them getting released, and then we're rearresting, and we're getting calls again. And so certainly recognize that small businesses and the businesses are concerned, and they're frustrated as well. So there has to be something. So where do we take someone for that? And so I know these conversations are happening now, but believe me, the officers, again, they're feeling very frustrated, but they continue the work. And so when officers get frustrated, we are not going to allow violations to go unaddressed. And so as we move forward with that, it is that. And I want to get out of this continuous loop. And how do we get people the help they need? Recognize that there are people that fall into that category, but there are unfortunately people that need to be put in jail. And that is the reality.
Can you talk about the complexities of dealing with a lockdown situation when kids are arriving or when they're leaving?
I'd like to reiterate what I said earlier. The processes that we had in place, the protocols we had in place are designed for our students that are already on campus. I feel like my team does that extremely well. What we did not and had not built into it was when kids are on their way to school, out at lunch, or leaving school, how we address those. And so that's what we're going to really be focused on, along with working with our partners and building up our communication.
Thanks so much, guys.